Alright, so the 4 different corner tiles, let's see here. There's one here, and I was talking about the different layouts. So corridor, 2 big rooms, door throughout. One with a smaller room, yet, and these rooms are not really going to be that good because the walls are 3 inches high, so it's going to be hard to do anything in them anyways. And it will be quite easy to switch them around to make different setups and different dungeons. And the plan is for the tiles that's going to be in between, they're going to have an open part in 3 sides, so they can go into a center room as well. These were the first 2 tiles I built. It was after building these 2 that I had the ideas to make arches, which makes some nice extra detail with a minimum of work and actually makes the walls stronger. So I should have thought about that from the get-go. All right, so plan was sand the top of this one. That was what I was doing right before. Let it dry. While it's drying, add floor tiles to this one, and then that one. Let it dry, and then see how much I can paint before the night is over. That's the plan for the build tonight. Is the sound of the rain going in the microphone? It's super sensitive, even with a noise cancelling filter on it. Alright, thanks. So yeah, this was the ugly edges I was talking about. I'm just gonna hide them up with sand and glue. It's a much nicer finish. And an edge like that wouldn't be a problem if I was using more expensive XPS foam and thicker XPS foam. But I like doing things with scrap materials and keep it cheap. There. Yeah, so I was saying before, I had planned to make rooms in the dungeon that was built with permanent details, but I'm really happy that I didn't, and because it gives me a lot more options for the final build if I can just add scatter terrain for whatever it's going to be. So it's easy. I can easily make some scatter terrain to make it a sewer system in Mordheim, for example. Do some small streams, or a lot of dungeon pieces for a classic dungeon, or make it the inside of a castle or a tavern, whatever, by scatter pieces. All right. So when I started building it, I was trying to measure the tiles to make nice even rows, but that went sideways. I don't have enough patience for that. I just want to get it done. But I think that it will still work fine for dungeon crawlers with the grid I'm actually making, despite it not being exactly precise. I think the most important part is there is it's easy to see some clear tiles on the floor. Right. Just gonna put a couple of doors in place before gluing tiles on the floor, so I don't accidentally do something that makes not enough room for the doors afterwards. At least the music stopped. So perhaps it would have been a good idea to actually watch other people streaming before throwing myself into this, to get some experience from that. But I really haven't watched a lot of streams myself because I'm more for written blogs and written articles. So yeah, better tune into the terrain tutor, I think. These small tiles are just made from a cut up frozen pizza box. In roughly equal sizes. This is the most boring part of the build. The fun thing was carving all the stonework. Though I did get very tired in the hands by the end, because there's so many stones. I have a lot of green stuff wool rolling pins. Oh right, yeah, the small floor tiles here, yeah, just cardboard. I have a lot of green stuff wool rolling pins, and they work on the right kind of XPS foam, but they couldn't make a dent in the foam I'm using. I've also been trying to use polystyrene. That didn't really work well either. I have a hot cutter, like a small, it's a cheap one from China, a small metal spike that I can draw in polystyrene with. I had thought about making the stonework with that, but that would be a toxic mess. The fumes are rather nasty. And I don't think it would hold up as well as this one either. I need to find a way to to make a sound when somebody rides. That must be possible. So I don't miss it. No, never mind. Alright. And then a bunch of sand. Just leave that. Door for this room. There we go. Another bit of glue. So for the first thing this dungeon board is going to be used for is Ranges of Shadow Deep and the Watchtower scenario chain, where there is 2 inside scenarios in the Watchtower of Tor Varden. But in the scenario description, it's meant to be 3 large rooms covering a larger area than this. I think it's meant to be on a 2x3 feet board. And this is only going to be a 2x2 board, but with the extra rooms and all the doors, I don't think it will be a problem. Then I'll just have to wing it. And for that first scenario, I need to paint up a wizard study, a torture chamber, a storage room, and an armory. So while building this, I'm also painting a truckload of Mantic Games terrain crate stuff to put inside. That will fit those rooms required for the first scenario. And then I'm really looking forward to playing some 2nd edition Frostgrave in a dungeon as well. We played a lot of 1st edition Frostgrave, but we've never played any inside games, cavern games or dungeon games, and haven't used the rules from Into the Breeding Pits, all that. So that's going to be a fun way to change the game as well. Trying to play inside. And I don't play any kind of RPGs, so it's not going to see any use for that. So when I get around to painting this, I plan to add some extra details, like the old Hero Quest and Warhammer Quest tiles. They were just grey stone. They actually had a lot of color in some of the rooms. So I plan to do that as well. Do some checkered patterns in some of the rooms. Perhaps 1 in each tile, and leave the rest grey. Okay. Well, just get the sand out of the first room here. Oh. I'm really happy with this piece of wax cloth. I use it a lot, also when basing models, so I don't have to be too careful when applying flock. I can just pour it all over the place. Drop any extra there might be onto this fabric, and then pour it back in whatever container the flock came from. This is one of those kind of projects that's been on and off for a long time because it's so massive. That's why it hasn't gotten completed. The way I do most terrain builds is I plan what do I use for furniture. I went all in on the Mantic Games terrain crate for fantasy terrain. So I have a bunch of terrain from that, plastic, and a couple of sets of the Dungeon Saga. Then I have all the old Hero Quest bits all painted up. And while I was waiting for the terrain crate pieces, I bought a ton of cheap Chinese architectural dollhouse 150 furniture pieces. And you'll get a bag of beds and tables and bookcases, and they were fairly easy to upgrade. Turn some of those boring beds into a bed fitting for fantasy. After painting, I added a piece of white cloth, and at the end of the bed I added some shield symbols from old Empire soldiers. The bookcases I covered in popsicle sticks or coffee stirrers. So I actually have a fair bit of fantasy furniture already done, and then I'm painting up all these Mantic Games pieces as well. I think it's gonna look really good when it's painted and filled with furniture. Really good. Oh yeah, so the project is really big, and when I make a date with somebody to play a game, that's usually what motivates me to do a project. So a good mate of mine and me will plan a game of Reality's Edge a couple of months into the future, and we roll a scenario, and then that's what I build. I build new terrain or new pieces for that game that's planned. Same goes for This Is Not a Test. We don't want to play on the same board too often, so plan a game a month ahead, and that's what I'm working on. Painting miniatures for whatever scenario or objectives or bestiary that's used in that game. Same goes for terrain, and that has made this dungeon project stand still for a long time, because I had no planned games where I had to use it. So it was easy to get sidetracked and go do another project, that was quicker to finish up than this. So that's why this month I made it my hobby pledge. Each month I do a hobby pledge. Paint some miniatures or do some specific terrain, get it done, and I set a high forfeit fee should I fail my pledge. This month I've pledged to finish building these 4 tiles, paint up a bunch of terrain for it, finish up a bridge, a tower, and a windmill, MDF kits. And if I fail, I have to next month paint up, build and paint a 5-man warband for a successful pledger for any game system or setting they prefer. Stone down there. I've only played 3 games of Rangers of Shadow Deep so far, and it's a really good system. It's very close to the Frostgrave system, and I love the Frostgrave system. I do like playing solo. It took a bit of getting used to playing games with myself, because normally I wouldn't do it. My hobby time, instead of playing a game against the game, would be building new models or painting new models or building terrain. So yeah, it took a bit of getting used to, but I do like it. There's some great solo games out there, and I really like Rangers of Shadow Deep and want to get on with the story. So that's a good motivator to finally get this dungeon build finished. Sand. Oh, 2 tiles up here. 1 and boom. Sand it up. No, 1 small floor left. And it's on to painting. That's nice. Oh, good evening. I guess it's raining a bit on your island. Yes, it is. It's pouring, actually. I really need to set up some kind of sound. The Rangers of Shadow Deep has a great feel to it. Haven't tried Frostgrave yet, but they seem similar. Yeah, same base system. Rangers of Shadow Deep is same core mechanics. D20 system, not as big a focus on the spell casting, obviously, in Rangers of Shadow Deep. I do like the addition of skills. I did feel an RPG urge when I started playing Rangers of Shadow Deep that I haven't felt in a long time. That every scenario has some kind of skill test that can give you an edge in the game. I like the crew markers. And there's already, I think, there's already more material out there. Joseph McCullough is very productive. There's more material out there than I'll ever get around to actually play through. And now he's even gone ahead and started writing a trilogy of expansions set in a desert setting. And that's one of the few things I don't have yet. Any kind of desert terrain. So I better build that. But I do feel lucky tonight because it's much nicer listening to the rain than that very hot, high, loud techno music from earlier. All right, 1 hour in. And done with the first couple of things I had planned for the build. Time to get some paint on the first 2 tiles that are already dry. So for painting, I've bought some cheap acrylics, black and white, and I made sure to buy a lot of tubes at the same time because it's going to be a huge build. And when mixing a gray, I used an entire tube of white and 2 teaspoons of black and 4 teaspoons of sand and 4 teaspoons of wood glue. I don't know how much glue I actually need to add that strength. But the most important part was I had some kind of measurement of how much black and white I had used for the paint, because if I use this up, it would suck to miss one tile and not be able to get the exact same nuance of gray. Again, so an entire tube of white and 2 teaspoons of black, so I should be able to get the same kind of gray. My plan now for painting this thing is I'm gonna go for something like a dry brush. I don't want too much paint because I have all these nice black details, because I used a black pen for drawing all the stonework. I think I'm gonna go over the entire thing twice. So just paint everything gray and then pick out details in the walls later, like on this this wall right here. Paint everything the same color of gray, and then perhaps the lower line of stones in a darker gray, and the middle line in some kind of red or gray brown. So there's gonna be some details, but I think the easiest part is just gonna be paint everything gray right away. So that's the plan now. 1 hour into the stream, technical problems, and I've finished making the floors, finished putting sand on the edges, and it's good to be onto the painting part. There's actually a chance of finishing this thing in June. How to capture this on video. Let's see how it works. I do plan to give everything a nice thick layer of brown wash as the last part of the build. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to save all those black details when painting. That's not gonna work. I had also considered just painting everything with a thin layer of watered down wood glue. That was a tongue twister. And then using spray paint to paint it all. Because the spray paint would melt the foam if I did it directly. I don't want that. But again, it would raise the price more than I'm willing to, using a ton of rattle cans for it, instead of using 50 crowns like $10 on cheap acrylic paint instead. Here is the key. It's really nice that this particular kind of foam is dark gray from the start. It's a bit shiny, so it has to be painted. But if there's some place I don't really get any paint, it doesn't make that much of a difference. Unlike if it had been blue or green, expensive foam. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, that camera picks up a lot of contrast. That's cool. The painted parts is not as easy to pick out for my own eyes. Sharper contrast on the camera. How to attack this without getting paint all over the place. I better go straight for the inside. It'll be interesting to see how much editing time I need to do on this to make any kind of watchable video for YouTube. Well, the rain is still here, but it's probably not as... Yeah, it can't be raining that much. I can't hear the difference, but there must be some, since the microphone stopped picking it up. See if we can catch some of the details. So in all the corridors in the dungeon, I've made this same 5 stone rows symmetry in the walls. I've made sure to try and make some details, some doorways, despite there being details in those doorways from Black Plague. But I think it adds some extra. To add some spot colors of brown on some of the tiles. Yes, I am. I'm gonna pick out some individual stones in very dark gray and brown, the right color of green. It's a very earthy green, earthy red, and then I'm gonna pick out some of the top rows of stone and the arches around the doors to add some detail that way. Just a few here and there. I did that for a huge tower I built for Frostgrave. First I just painted it all the same gray, and just picking out a few stones here and there really adds a lot of detail to the finished model, and breaks up something that will be a flat and boring look. I plan to do some banners for the walls, like a 10 centimeter piece of cloth with a printed logo on that can just go over the top to easily hang on both sides of the wall. That'll be some easy details as well. And then lots of bookcases, weapon racks, and other kinds of dungeon furniture that can be standing up against the wall will also help with the breaking up the flat surfaces. And I will be doing different colored floors in some of the rooms. So in the end, I hope that there will be sufficient and different detail. Ooh, like, yes, exactly, like Hero Quest. That's the plan. So on a tile like this one, I'm not sure I'm gonna make, in a small room like this, I might do a colored floor. In all the corridors, they're gonna be the same color. These long, thin rooms, I think they're gonna be gray as well. But for a tile like this, in a large room like that, I'm gonna add details to a floor there. And some places, let's see if we can, I don't know if we can show it perhaps on this one. I've also added details on a few of the walls there. You can see there's a grate in the wall. I've added some beams in the wall as well. I'm gonna pick those out in brown or metal perhaps, because this was thought as a prison chamber. A room like the one I'm painting here. It's hard to see right now, but the top and the bottom is squared blocks, but in between it's all cobblestone, small round stones. So I'm gonna make the frame of square stones all around in another color than the gray that's in the middle. So I think that's gonna bring sufficient detail to the finished build. And then nothing beats a heavy layer of wash. It's actually really nice sitting out here working. Fresh air, listening to the rain, and not filling my ears with the noise from music or an audiobook. I like it. So that heater I just turned on, I've just turned on one of the rings and it's really hot and it can double up. I think that'll be enough to keep me warm if I decide to play a game out here in the autumn or winter. That's pretty cool. How about torches to the hallways? Is that something you would recommend? Yes. So when most of the big terrain projects that I do spends months or even years in my mind taking shape, especially if it's something scratch built. And I've been toying with this dungeon project for such a long time. So I've been thinking about magnets in the walls and then magnets on terrain, so it would be easy to add a picture or a suit of armor or a guy being tortured or a torch. It would be easy to add a lot of stuff on the walls with strategically placed magnets in some kind of color so they were easy to spot. That's also how I plan to do doors originally, with magnets. So it might be something I do that way, but I'm not certain yet. Here from the start I'm just painting up because there's actually a lot of torches. It's called a brazier, candle lights and other details like that in the terrain crate stuff. So I'm just gonna paint that up so it, but those are gonna be standing on the floor here and there. That's the plan in the beginning, at least. But it would add a lot of detail if I can find a good and easy way to add details to the walls. But I'm not sure how well magnets are gonna work, because it's a soft surface, the foam. And I can't see, have I painted this? This out. But I'll have to check it out. I'm not gotten to that part yet. First project is build and paint these 4 tiles so they'll look good on the table. Add all kinds of furniture that's standing on the floor, and then I can always get back to the project if I decide to figure out a good way to make details on the walls. Other details. So when painting the top here, I added a thick layer of glue, pressed the sand into the glue, and now giving it a thick layer of paint again, and there's glue mixed into the paint because I really want these edges to harden up. If this thing is gonna suffer damage in games, it's gonna be up here on the top, on the corners, where foam is going to break off when you're reaching into the dungeon and moving the miniatures around. So the more strength I can add, the better. It's actually really hard to see where I've actually gone over with the paint. Awesome. First tile all painted up with the first layer. And then I'll jump on Discord, and I would appreciate any kind of input at that point. This is a learning experience.